Hey y'all, it's Heel Heat time.
Hi everybody and welcome to Heel Heat. This is our WWE show for the week. My name is George Coles and let's jump right into it. We're going to start off with the so-so portions of the show last night. Basically the stuff that is either forgettable, could have been better, could have been worse. Either way, in 2-3 weeks you're going to forget it. First up is Curtis Axel versus Big E Langston. Big E is someone that should be skyrocketing to the top of the card. Curtis Axel, I hate to say it, I really wanted him to do well, mostly because I'm a fan of his father and his grandfather, just like my partner Gary. But I hate to say it, he's fallen flat, and this match just didn't do anything for me. It was a known conclusion. I didn't think it made Big E look any better. I didn't think it did anything for Curtis Axel. I really think Big E's a guy that they could use, and he could be a main event caliber player, and they need to build him up as such. And this was something that's don't want to say counterproductive to that, but it didn't help either. Next up is a match that I was kind of looking forward to. The Real Americans versus the Rhodes brothers, Cody and Goldust. Something was just off in the match. The fact that there was, I believe, 2 commercial breaks during it, and one we seen the giant swing on the commercial break on the app, which I didn't go to. I don't know if any of you guys did. But I expected more and a better match from these two teams. It wasn't bad, it just, to me, it didn't seem that they were in sync. But the Rhodes brothers pick up the win. Like I said, I just expected more from them, I think. Both of them. Now, coming off of that, we had the Legends segment where they introduced all the legends that were on the show. The New Age Outlaws, Too Cool, Rikishi, Ric Flair, Bob Backlund, Arn Anderson, IRS, $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase, Booker T, and if I'm forgetting anybody, Nikolai Volkov and DDP, and if I'm forgetting anybody, I'm sorry. They introduce all them, which leads to a Bad News Barrett segment. Now, if you've seen last week, Bad News Barrett fell into our bad section, so he's moving up a bit while still not. I don't know if this is what is going to work for the character. I think the character has potential. The Bad News Barrett gimmick, I don't know that this was the right thing to do with it. It just didn't feel right. It felt a little bit hokey, a little bit, I don't know, more of a dig on the old timers than anything else, but to me it didn't hit. I think the Bad News Barrett thing could work a lot better if they actually flesh it out and get really good ideas for what to do with it. Now, going from that, we're going to get into our bad segment of the show. This is the stuff we could have just done without. First off, Sin Cara versus Alberto Del Rio for, I think, the 3rd time in as many weeks. Not a terrible match, not a terrible feud. The lighting absolutely, positively has to go. Any match that ever has a Sin Cara lighting in it is going to fall into the bad section. It is absolutely the worst thing they could do. I don't know what they're trying to go for with that. I know they're trying to make them unique, make them cool. I don't know. To me, it just makes the arena dark. You don't see the reaction of the fans. You don't get to crisply see the moves that this guy's pulling off. It just fell flat to me. And even Alberto, after the match, talking about being in the Royal Rumble and getting to Batista, still, everything about it fell flat. The Sin Cara lighting absolutely has to go. Now, next up was Damien Sandow versus the Great Khali. Now, I really hate to put Damien Sandow in this category, and it's so mind-boggling to me that they can't find better things to do with this guy, who is a major talent, who has a talking gift, who has an in-ring gift, that put him in a feud with the Great Khali. And this was even a stupid gimmick match, which pick your own referee. The choices were Sergeant Slaughter, Bob Backlund, and Arn Anderson. Somehow Sergeant Slaughter won. I don't know how. I think he would have been the least of the three to pick. I'm pretty sure that the whole app thing is a ruse, and it's all a work because it all worked out to Slaughter putting him in the Cobra Clutch after the match. Just a terrible segment. This is what's bad about these shows, that they force little crap segments like this on here that aren't fun, and that they involve guys like Khali that aren't funny. I don't know. I'd rather see Sandow versus Slaughter personally. But that's what they like to do, so. Next up, weekly it goes in here, our Divas match of the week going into the bad section, the Bella Twins versus Alicia Fox and Oksana. The only saving grace about this is it wasn't a 5 or 6 or 4 or multi-woman match. There was 4 women, tag team match, pretty much straightforward. I just have no interest in the Divas division. They could make it so much better than it is. And they're right. Oksana has improved a lot. Nikki and Brie Bella have improved a lot. Alicia Fox is a solid women's wrestler. Please, by God, just give us better wrestling on the show. I touched on it last week with the emergence of Ronda Rousey as a huge star in the MMA world and a pay-per-view headliner. Why couldn't the wrestling world have that? Why doesn't the wrestling world have a Ronda Rousey? Women's wrestling's been around 10 times as long as women's MMA. And they've never really had that. The closest we've had is Trish and Lita, or maybe the Fabulous Moolah in her day, or Khan in TNA. But the WWE should really be building these women as serious athletes. Not just eye candy, not just models, athletes, which is what most of them are. It befuddles me that they can't do better than what they do with them. Now, coming off of that, before we go into our good section, we're going to go into our question of the week. Who is going to be your MVP for 2014? The first one's an answer from our friend Paul over at the Deadly Sins. Happy New Year to you too, brother, and all the guys at the Deadly Sins. Love them, love their shows, love their videos. One of the people that absolutely influenced me to start this show myself. And Paul, you know me and you were like brothers, brother. I feel like Hulk Hogan right now. But anyway, this is from Paul. That was just part of it. Sorry, I got sappy. I think the WWE will finally find the diamond in the rough they have with Roman Reigns. He's a great talent, and he looks like their definition of what a champion should be. With the infighting and the going on in the Shield, I feel a split is inevitable. Ambrose will continue as a U.S. title road, but Reigns get pushed into the world title picture. We'll talk about that portion of it a little bit later. But I think you're pretty spot on with that. I think he's the guy that's going to break off first from the Shield and become a star first. I think all 3 members of the Shield will become main eventers and stars. I think he's the guy that's going to do it first, though. Next up's from our friend Yellow Lion 3250. I have 3 people that can be the MVP of 2014. All depends on WWE, how WWE pushes them. Roman Reigns, because you see what they're grooming him, the same way they did Batista for that big babyface push. Second, Bray Wyatt, he's in the main event matches and storylines. He's due a monster heel push. And so does this guy, Dean Ambrose. I know that the U.S. title is less important than a paperclip, but his mic work is classic, and with the right push, he will be a force like Mr. Toothless Aggression was, a.k.a. Chris Benoit. Or the Rabbit Wolverine, or the Crippler, or Wild Pegasus, or whatever you want to call it. 3 absolutely great suggestions. I'm going to go a little bit different. Someone I mentioned early in the show and why they went into the so-so area for me. I think 2014 is going to be the year of Biggie Langston. I see him getting that, if you guys remember the Ahmed Johnson push, except for with less headaches, so he will go further than Ahmed ever went. I think he's an interesting character. I think he's got the size, the look, the feel of a big-time player in the business. I think he's going to be a major breakout face for the company. And I think 2014 is going to be his year. On the heel side, I think, and he might not even stay heel the whole year because he's so popular within his own group. I think this is going to be the year that Antonio Cesaro truly gets to show how great he really is. There's a lot of people that already know it. There's a lot of people in the office that are starting to know it and starting to realize what a raw piece of talent they have. I look for Biggie Langston and Antonio Cesaro by the end of the year to be firmly in the main event picture. I think it's going to be the year of Biggie. I think he's going to get more opportunities at championships or runs with the title or pay-per-view headliners than Cesaro. But I think we're going to see Cesaro either break out as a major heel factor in the company, or even when they turn him face, because they might, he's getting that over, him becoming a major face. Now, coming off of that, someone that hadn't had a good 2013, but 2012 could have been considered the MVP. Something happened before Monday Night Raw. While they were taping Superstars, Ryback wrestled Dolph Ziggler and pretty much gave him a stiff clothesline, leading to a pretty serious concussion. This isn't the first time that Ryback's injured a wrestler. How this ties into our question of the week is, do you guys see Ryback staying with the WWE all the way through 2014? Let us know what you think. Hit us up on Facebook, hit us up on Twitter, put it down where? Down in the comments. Anyway, now we're going to go into the good portions of the show, the stuff I really liked, and hopefully you guys did too. First off, the opening segment with Ric Flair coming out, grabbing the microphone, and showing why he's still better than 99% of the humans walking the earth when it comes to talking on a microphone. God, this guy is amazing. I'm so happy that I've got to see so much of Ric Flair's career, and he's really, for as much praise as he gets, I think he's even underappreciated with how great the man really is. I mean, he really is the Hank Aaron of wrestling, the Babe Ruth of wrestling, the Wayne Gretzky of wrestling, the Michael Jordan of wrestling. He is the greatest person that's ever did it, bar none. No one even comes close. It's going to be a shame when John Cena beats his title run reigns. But it is what it is. It's a different era, different timing. It was a shame, I'm guessing, to some people when Flair beat whoever he beat, which I think was Harley Race, which another great wrestler that doesn't get quite the due he deserves. But anyway, back on the track. We had Randy Orton come out. They teased about their history with each other. Randy eventually threatens Flair, which brings out John Cena. Cena threatens Randy, says, let's fight, let's go now. Doesn't end up being nothing. Randy backs away. I thought it was a hot opener. I wish they would have done a little bit more with the guys. Maybe a tag match. I know it's cliche. But Cena and Orton should have maybe had a little bit something more going on later in the show, possibly. Or even when, at one point, Cena's standing in front of Flair, and Orton, he's facing Orton. If Flair would have given him the low blow from behind, or hit him in the back of the head, like the dirtiest player in the game, it would have been great. But all in all, good opening segment, really good. I enjoyed it thoroughly. Then after that, we had Rey Mysterio and the Usos versus Luke Harper, Eric Rowan, and the newest member of the Wyatt family, Daniel the Dumpster Droese, Bryan. I know, it's been done to death. It's a stupid joke. I get it. Anyway, the Mysterio and the Usos pick up the win after a little bit of a miscommunication between Harper and Bryan, which sets up the backstage segment where he talks about working with monsters and he himself wanting to be a monster, and what he can bring to the family, and how he can help them become tag team champions, which we find out him and Bray Wyatt will team up next week. Little interesting. I like the little interesting thing. There's so many ways it could go with this story. It's so much in its infancy now. He could be working from the inside to break up the Wyatts, show dissension. He could be working with the Wyatts to make it over, make them bigger than they are. You know, maybe break Rowan and Harper away from Bray Wyatt so he gets Bray Wyatt to himself. Or he could be brainwashed. There's so many ways it could go with it, and I like that it's being left open as of now. Next up, I'm very surprised it fit on here because the last few times I did it, it absolutely sucked. Piper's Pit with the Shield. Piper was 100% on top of his game tonight, or last night, I'm sorry. This was the best Piper's Pit I've seen probably since Piper's Pit was a regular part of the show. All the other part-time Piper's Pits just haven't had it. Him and Dean Ambrose going at each other, him and Rollins, him and Reigns, him putting CM Punk over as the only other guy that could talk as good as him. I thought every part of it was excellent. CM Punk and the Outlaws coming out to make the save for Orton, or I'm sorry, so used to people saving Orton, for Piper, which ties into Orton, obviously. I thought it was absolutely great. Roddy Piper putting the seeds of doubt, planning more to the split of the Shield, which is inevitable at this point. There's too much out front about it that it's got to happen. Now, coming off of that, the next thing I really liked was the Brock Lesnar-Paul Heyman interview. They let Heyman do most of the talking. Mark Henry comes out, gets his arm broken by Brock, which we see the Big Show come out. Brock Lesnar looks like he's going to go at it with Show. Heyman distracts Show. Brock charges, and Show throws him across the ring, to which at that point, Brock Lesnar backs off. Interesting concept. Clash of the Monsters here. Who's the biggest, baddest monster in the company? We see him dominate Mark Henry like Mark Henry's never been dominated. However, he cowers to the Big Show. Interesting dynamic. I like how it's going. I'd like to see this match at Royal Rumble. I think it would be a good match. Their matches they had when Lesnar was there before were good, actually. They're probably some of the better of the Big Show's career. Just an interesting match. Now, next up, we talked about earlier with Sergeant Slaughter how the legends being evolved can go bad. We're going to see something that ended up good. 3MB versus Too Cool and Rikishi. I don't care what you say. I thought it was great. I loved seeing the Worm again. I loved seeing Rikishi doing the sit out. I loved seeing Too Cool dance. I thought it was awesome. Nice little comedy segment. It worked for what it was. Too Cool was exactly what they were 10, 15 years ago. And it brought a real big smile to my face seeing these guys doing it again. Kudos to them. That's how you do it right. That's how you bring up the nostalgia, tie it in, make it new again. Last but not least, the main event of the night, CM Punk versus Roman Reigns. Punk getting introduced by Road Dogg and Badass Billy Gunn, the New Age Outlaws. How cool was that? Mean Gene doing the part about the 1-900 number just before that. How awesome was that? Outlaws staying to keep the Shield from interfering, which Punk takes a clean loss to Roman Reigns. Again, furthering maybe the split. The Shield attacks, they get an advantage, and we hear some familiar music, but some we haven't heard in about 8 years in WWE. The music of Jake the Snake Roberts. One of the all-time legends. One of the all-time greats. Everybody loves Jake. Good to see him back. Good to see him off the drugs, off the drinking, looking better than he has in decades. Jake comes out, clears the ring, puts Damian on top of Ambrose. Ambrose marked out so much that he broke character, and you could see him smiling, and everybody in the back and everybody watching had to smile too. Who doesn't love a good story like Jake Roberts coming back and beating his demons. What an awesome spot. Hopefully they bring him into the Royal Rumble. I think he'd be a great addition to that show. But all in all, he made the end segment so awesome, so great. When you use the Legends, this is the way to use it. I thoroughly enjoyed it, to be honest with you guys. I don't know how you felt, but I loved Jake the Snake as a kid, and I still love him now, and I'm so glad that he's beaten his demons, and I'm so glad that he can come back and we get to see Jake and we get to see him smiling. Let's go right into it. This is our ratings for the show for the week. Now, if you've seen the show before, we have a 1 to 5 scale. 1 being the worst, 5 being the best. 1's a Great Khali, 2's a Heath Slater, 3's a Randy Orton, 4's a CM Punk, 5's a Daniel Bryan. I'm giving the show a 4, a CM Punk. A couple matches could have been better, which would have made the show better in my opinion. Other than that, pretty solid show. Probably one of your better shows you're going to see till WrestleMania season really kicks in. But I liked it. I thought it was solid. It was entertaining. It was probably the best of the old school WWE shows that I've seen since they've been doing this. All in all, a fun show, good to watch. Basically, that's all I have to say about that. My name is George Coles, and this has been another episode of Heel Heat.